Aptoide is a Portuguese startup, and we are an Android app store. Aptoide is just an alternative to Google Play. For you and me, it's very normal to have an email address, right? Because we started with computers. But if you think about a farmer in Myanmar, they never had a device, electronic device, right? Then they have a smartphone, it's their first phone, and they want to install apps. But when you go to try to create a Google Play account, the first thing Google asks is what's your Gmail account, right? You have to create a Gmail account. And they sometimes don't have the capacity to do that account creation, so they just search for alternative ways to get the apps into their phones. And Aptoide has this advantage that you don't need to create an account to download apps. So my CEO in 2009 was doing a PhD in computer science, and for his thesis was to address this problem of app discovery. So he looked at the Google Play and iTunes and felt, oh, it's so difficult to discover new content, right? Because there's all the top free, top trending, top paid, whatever. So if you don't reach, it's difficult, right? So he inspired himself in the YouTube model, which is anybody inside Aptoide can create their own mini store, like their channel, right? And then they pick the favorite apps like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, right? They create their playlist, and then they share with family and friends the playlist. So if you imagine you are a guy that likes photography, and you are known because you're known for being a photography expert, right? You can create your store inside Aptoide with your favorite photography apps, right? And then you share with your followers, hey, here are my favorite photography apps. So for the guy that made the app, he gets a chance to be discovered. If you are Apple or Google, you don't have a problem getting apps into your store, right? Because you have, as an app developer, you go to them, right? But if you are someone like Aptoide, we have this problem. So my CEO was very smart. Still, if you think about the YouTube model, when it started, and still today, is almost everything is user-generated content, right? People upload videos into YouTube, and that's how the community grew. Same thing as Aptoide. Because we allow them to create those stores, right? You upload your apps from your phone into Aptoide, right? And when you upload the apps from your phone to Aptoide, you're making them available to the entire community. So I don't need to worry, like other third-party app stores, to make sure I have the latest version of Facebook or WhatsApp in my store. I don't need, because Ivan and Tiago will just upload the apps from the phone, and that's it. I even have sometimes the situation where I have users asking me, how come I'm in Singapore and I got the newest version of Facebook here in Singapore through Aptoide before Google Play? And then I tell them, well, because Google Play, when they send out the updates, they do sometimes first Americas, then Europe, then Asia, right? Phasing it. One guy in the US updated to Facebook through Google Play, then uploaded to Aptoide, and then it's pushed to Singapore before the Google Play. Because that's something we do in Aptoide. We don't control geographically or nothing, right? As long as there's no virus, there's no malware, once your app is approved into Aptoide, it's available everywhere in the world. So no country restrictions. And you know, like you guys have been traveling, sometimes it's frustrating. You want to download an app and then you have pop-ups say, oh, it's not available in your country. And you just wanted to try it out because your friend in, I don't know, Argentina or something told you, hey, take a look at this game or this app is really cool. And you cannot, we don't have those restrictions in Aptoide. If not mistaken, from the apps we have installed in our phone, I think 3 of them you use 80% of the time during a day. So I think most of people will be Facebook, WhatsApp, maybe if you work like me by email, and that's it, right? So this is a big problem. This is a big problem. How do you keep people discovering and using new apps? It's very, very difficult challenge for developers. The best thing Aptoide can give is a new storefront, okay? So every time I talk with a developer, I always tell them, please make Google Play your #1 store. Of course, you give you scale is the biggest one, right? You'd be a fool not to put your app in Google Play. Having said that, look into third-party app stores. So for example, App Annie estimates for this year, 2016, Google Play will generate 80 billion downloads third-party app stores will generate 40 billion, already half of the Google Play number. So you should put your app in Aptoide and other app stores as a new storefront where you can be discovered. In our specific case, the biggest advantage is that users can create their stores, right? So if you are lucky to be selected into a user store that has a lot of followers, or for example, if you are lucky to be selected to our kids app store, then it's you competing with a few dozen competitors instead of like 2.2 million apps in Google Play. So it's one of the things we do. The other thing, we make it very easy for developers to put the app in our store, because a big concern about developers is, oh, I have an APK for Google Play, I don't want to make a specific APK for Aptoide. You don't. You use the same one, and we even have an option that you can select in the back office. From now on, whenever you publish a new version in Google Play, we'll get a new version for you, okay? And then we always give some money to the developers to promote their app, some credit to promote their app inside Aptoide. And the reason we do that is because then they'll find out that Aptoide is quite cheap for user acquisition, and then they'll start using us as a acquisition. Now, disposable income is a very important factor for how much money you're willing to pay for stuff, okay? So clearly, somebody that buys an iPhone has more disposable income than an Android user. But the last time I saw someone from Google talking, the number of apps that are paid in Google Play are less than 1% already. Okay, so people are getting used to have everything for free, and then what these game developers address is that impulse, right? You're playing Candy Crush, and you just lost your last life, and you really want to catch up with your friend, and then you have the impulse to spend money. So I think with this change to more freemium, I think it will be a matter of time that the scale of Android will make the revenues from Android bigger. And then it depends on the region, right? You saw from my presentation, if you're a developer focusing on Western markets like North America and Europe, definitely iOS is the main platform. If you are South America, Africa, Middle East, and Asia, it's Android, okay? Android is dominating. Western markets, you used to see almost exclusively these big brands like Samsung, HTC, LG, right? But within the last maybe 2 years, right, these Chinese brands have started to invade, the Western market. Xiaomi was like the first one coming out. You see Lenovo, you see Huawei, you see ZTE, you see Oppo, and these guys are coming out with devices that have very good specs for 200 euros, very cheap. And then you are in the store, right? You look at iPhone, 800 euros. You look at the Samsung Edge, also close, right? Something like 800 euros, right? And then you look at this phone, right? This Xiaomi 200 euros, and say, oh man, with the price of one, I could buy 4 of those, right? And to be honest, I think that thing that was you remember how it used to be a bit of status to have the latest version of iPhone or the latest version of Samsung, to show your friends in the restaurant, in the bar. Right now it's difficult, you get this Oppo phone for half the price and it looks really cool, So people are starting to make smart decisions. Then regarding what I see here on the emerging markets, you have the rich population and those who buy whatever the phone they want. They'll buy the expensive iPhone, the expensive Samsung. But for people that, like I mentioned before, that is the first device in their life, they cannot spend so much money, they're getting very cheap phones, like $100, and the phone does everything you need to do in a phone, right? The limitation comes a little bit in terms of the memory, the memory you have. In December last year, we launched Aptoide Lite, similar to Facebook Lite, right? With 1 megabyte. Why we did it? Because we had feedback from partners here in the region that these people, they have in the phone memory maybe just 1 gigabyte or something, so they have to decide which apps they want to have in their phone. So they will install Aptoide to get the previous version of Instagram, but then they will uninstall because this 10 megabyte is too much. I don't think there's a room for a new operating system in the short, medium term, just because iOS and Android became so big, okay? And then because there's a part of Android that is open source, okay? That's what Xiaomi is using in their phones. That's what Amazon is using in its Fire and Kindle, okay? So I don't see room for a new operating system. What I see is a new room of variants of Android, okay? So a good example is this operating system from India called Indus OS. They took the Android open source and they changed it to make it more better, you know, for local people in India that are first device users. Bots and streaming is something that we are looking into because they can be big threats for Aptoide, Google Play and iTunes. If you look at Xiaomi, Facebook, Line and so on, they're using bots a lot to keep people inside their ecosystem. And if they stay inside their ecosystem, they don't go to app stores to discover new apps. And they're doing it by adding a lot of value to the user. So the two examples I usually give is Facebook. If there's you're going to have a trip, right? And you just want to know how many kilos can you bring in the airplane, why don't you go to the Facebook page of this airline, right? And ask the bot, what's the maximum kilos, right, that I can carry, and then the bot will answer, where are you coming from? Well, from Singapore to Spain. Okay, so the maximum is 30 kilos. That's it. We, as a startup, we reach a milestone of a startup life, which was profitability in January 2015. When you reach that type of milestone, you sometimes think, okay, maybe it's time to raise our next series round of investment, right? In our case, it was Series A. And we could have tried to raise the money from Europe or even from USA, and I think it would have been much easier to do it. But we looked at our user base and we look at where the growth will be coming from, okay? And very clearly, not just from what we're seeing already in user base, but even from the statistics that you see from likes like App Annie, the growth in the next 5 years, 10 years, in terms of smartphones and mobile, is coming from Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific. So we decided we should go where the growth is coming. So we decided to raise our Series A round here from Asia and decide to expand here. So that's why I'm here in Singapore. I'm here to address the Southeast Asia market. And then we have also an office in Shenzhen to also collaborate with the Chinese manufacturers. So in the meetings with the investors here in Asia, our KPIs, our numbers, our growth, it was not an issue, okay? They liked our numbers, they liked what we were doing. But then they would ask, where are you from, you know? And Spain is a bit bigger than Portugal, right? But Portugal is a small country. So they would say, oh, I don't know anybody in Portugal that I can pick up the phone and call that person and say, hey, Ivan, do you know this guy, Tiago? Is he really with Aptoide? Is this true? You know what he's saying? I think even Spain or Italy will have the same issue. We realize the trust factor is very, very important. So being a foreign startup, you know, from Europe, trying to raise money here is very difficult because of that, the trust factor. Sometimes I see some investment rounds here in Asia, and I say, hey, so much money and what a big valuation, right? But they're Asians, it's difficult. It's different, right? They have a track record, they know the guy. And if you think the other way around is the same thing, I think you have this feeling in Spain like we have in Portugal, right? You see all these Chinese coming to invest in companies, and what do people say? Oh, Chinese are coming to invade us and take our companies. It's the same thing. Imagine you being a Chinese startup raising money from Spain, right? It's difficult because the investor will prefer to give money to a Spanish or a European company, right? Because there's some relationship there, yeah? I can offer to anybody watching this video that if they need help expanding here to Asia, if I can help them in some way, I will.